All right, we're back. So we'll hop right on to my top 10 list of my favorite video games of all time. I wish I could add an effect there, but I wouldn't know how to in editing.
Hmm.
So, starting off, number 10, and a lot of these were pretty hard for me to come up with because I kept on putting in factors, of course, as you guys mentioned, of
Replayability.
of replayability, nostalgia, have I beaten the game, how many times I've gone back and played it. So, number 10 was almost an honorable mention, but I had to put on the list, and that is Eternal Darkness, Sanity's
Oh
Requiem.
yeah,
Oh,
For the
yeah.
good one.
I have never been able to beat this game.
I've
I have
actually
tried,
beaten
and
it.
I cannot get past the Guardian.
Huh.
Ever. I cannot get
I
past
actually
him.
finally figured out how to do that.
The pattern
Yep.
on it is so damn random at times, and maybe by the time you kind of figure it out, you're out of magic, so you can't really hurt him anymore.
Yeah.
And and eventually I would just give up or I would just die. I did still love the game for its mechanics. I love the sanity factor in there, how the game will just fuck with you.
Even doing video and audio glitches.
Yeah.
Yes. How at one point I would be saving my game and the game would just tell me, your game has been deleted.
And you're just like, no!
Wait, what? No. Oh, game, don't do that to me.
Yeah.
Or,
I love the ones
and
where
I
the
don't
screen would
even-
just go black and just act like the video quit on me.
I actually wonder how many different delusions there were all throughout the
Yeah.
game. Because I've had one where I sank into the floor, I suddenly died.
Oh yeah,
My game was
I've
deleted.
had that one quite a bit.
Yeah. But overall, and what is so sad about that game, especially, was that remnants of the developers who made Eternal Darkness were going to make a spiritual successor to Eternal Darkness, and they were making it as a Kickstarter. And I funded it twice, and both the gameplay videos that they released for it, and I believe it was going to come out for the Nintendo Wii U, and the game looked absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
But the first time they ran out of funding, and then the second time that they tried to do it, and I funded it both times. The second time turned out the guy that was in charge was ripping them off, and so they had to cancel it, and nobody got their money back. At least I didn't get my money back the second time around, which really sucked. And because I would love another Eternal Darkness game.
Yeah.
I really would. All right, and number 9 on my list, and this is probably gonna bother you guys, but it's Elder Scrolls 4: Oblivion.
Nice.
Because
It doesn't really bother me.
Well, no. Well, no. But, I had to put it on here because it was the one that I would return to a lot more often than I did Skyrim. I do still think Skyrim is definitely a far more superior game to Oblivion, just because they really did work out and make the magic system so much better in Skyrim.
Yeah.
Because magic system in Oblivion
Oh.
sucks. If you primarily want to be a spellcaster in Oblivion, the magic
You
sucks.
couldn't do it.
Yeah. But Oblivion was certainly my introduction. Well, it was my proper introduction to the series that made me want to play it more. Because I did play Morrowind. I didn't like Morrowind at all when I first played it, and still don't. I still own it. And I went back to it a while ago and replayed it, and I still do not like it at all. That game is aged terribly. Absolutely terribly. The fact that you have to stay on the road and you have to make sure to read road signs in order to know exactly where you are going. And I don't think you could just go off the beaten path, really, in Morrowind and explore without running into an enemy that was stronger than you. Of course, that could always be a common thing in probably any of the Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah.
But Oblivion was kind of the one that made exploration for me a lot of fun and really interesting. And a huge distraction because I would be wandering along, telling myself I'm going to play the main storyline, and I would wander past a ruin or a cave and said, hey, you want to go explore that? Like, no, I'm not going to. All right. And then I'm overburdened with all sorts of loot, armor, and weapons, and have to go back to the main town, sell it all, and then go back to said ruin, get everything else, and go through the traps, and
Yeah. That.
It's just one of those things to where you could like spend months just doing nothing.
Yes, you could spend hours just wandering around and just going into dungeons and I mean, you can do that in Skyrim, but it still feels to me like Oblivion had a lot more of that available. I know that sounds weird, but
It kind of did.
It had, and it was the first experience of that too. Skyrim, you kind of expected there to be vampires at points. There'd be the necromancers, werewolves and stuff. But then, when you first played Oblivion, that was my first introduction into that franchise. And when I first played that, I was just like, "What vampires? What necromancers? What the hell's going on in here?" So yeah, no. And then it had a cool way to, if I remember right, it had a cool way to kind of fast track you through the tutorial. If you got out of the dungeon and you went right into the arena and you started fighting in the arena, at least if you played like as a warrior type, you could really pump up your stats and make some gold really quick. So yeah.
That I will say is certainly another negative about Oblivion is the whole level up system.
Notorious.
Yeah, I didn't like that much, really.
Yeah. They did certainly improve that, along with many other things for Skyrim. It was just that, and also, and I mean, Angry Joe, when he did his review for Skyrim, he did mention something that I guess not a lot of people notice, is that the way that the Elder Scrolls games all start out for your character is that you're always a prisoner.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of a reused trope for them constantly.
Yep.
It's like,
then no explanation as to why you're a prisoner. You're a prisoner. You're there.
Yeah. Yeah. But still, that is a game I could go back to and replay. I would like to beat Oblivion and Skyrim someday. I don't know if that will ever happen. So moving on, number 8 is Shadowrun on the Sega Genesis. And I have played just about all of the Shadowrun games, aside from the original pen and paper, which I would love to. But everybody else who I know probably has never played the pen and paper version of Shadowrun, nor do they have the books on them. And I had never even heard of Shadowrun until my Game Informer magazine did an old retro review on the Super Nintendo version of it. And one day I walked in to one of the used game stores here in town that I used to go to, and they had a boxed copy of Shadowrun for Sega Genesis, and I bought it and I played it. And at first, I had a lot of trouble with it because when you first start out, and if you probably don't know what you're doing, it is pretty hard. Think of it as kind of a very early precursor to Grand Theft Auto 3, in a way, where you can travel to, I think, about 6 different city points. And you can kind of customize your character. When you first start out, you can either be a samurai, a hacker, or a shaman. And and it was just a really good game with some really good gameplay mechanics. It's got really great music. It's got a really nice, kind of difficult at times leveling up system. But once you really start getting into it and start making some really good money, you can start buying all sorts of really sweet tech and gear for your character. And of course, you can also recruit like other Shadowrunners to come with you and join you, not just on one quest, but all throughout the entire game if you can keep them alive. I don't know if you can also level them up with whatever karma that you have. And something else that I never really noticed is that you can actually switch and also play as those other characters. It's not a turn-based game either. It's kind of it is kind of real-time combat. And it took me a while to beat it. And I kind of had to use a cheat in order to make absurd amount of money so I could buy the best hacking gear and the best guns and the best armor and such. But I still enjoyed the hell out of it. Absolutely love it. Another recommendation, of course, would be Shadowrun Returns, which is available on Steam, which I was really excited for. It's certainly not as good as the Sega Genesis version, which feels like it has a lot more free reign for you to do whatever the hell you want, in that you can just spend your time grinding and taking odd jobs and just doing that all throughout the entire game. So there was that. Number 7 is Super Metroid on my list. And, I had a really hard time debating about, like, which particular game from an old franchise I would want on this list. Because when it came to either Super Metroid or A Link to the Past, I had to tell myself, like, which one were you playing more often? Which one were you beating a lot more often and wanting to go back and play more? And it was Super Metroid for me. And again, the exploration, the gaming mechanic in it, the level up system, the huge bosses, the music in it, everything was just absolutely perfect. It's as perfect as it's ever been. And I did enjoy the first Metroid Prime game. I never beat it, though. But that was certainly a huge improvement. It was a step in the right direction for the Metroid series.
Yeah, that they unfortunately didn't capitalize on.
Yeah. And Super Metroid is still a great game. Definitely. It is... it's kind of funny, because if you look back on a lot of the old 8-bit to 16-bit to the 16-bit games, you can go back to those and you can still enjoy the graphics. It's when you get to the 3D style games with the pixelation art that you go, wow, these character models, they look absolutely hideous. And it and then of course, you get to early precursors of games with camera control or no camera control, and depending on whether or not how frustrating that made a lot of the gameplay. And
yes, but
yeah,
I was about to say, yeah, especially like, how much we take for granted these days that you can control the camera, with one stick. Yeah, I mean, you go back and play a lot of those games where it's like, the camera's at the mercy of what you're doing with that single stick, like especially with the N64. Yeah, I remember them trying to gotta move your character around just so you can turn the camera. That's
yeah. And your camera would get stuck on a wall,
Oh,
and you
yeah.
couldn't turn it so that how can I make this precise jump if I can't see well enough so that I can tell if I'm going to land properly and I just died or you fell several stories and you got to climb all the way back up. This was 16-bit graphics at its finest, and thankfully, a lot of those old kind of games, they age pretty gracefully. Yeah, some of them you go back and maybe the controls are not as refined, or the game is just too damn hard sometimes. But thankfully, a lot of these rare cases, well, maybe not too rare, but a lot of these older games, I think they all age really well.
They seem to.
Very well. All right, and number 6 on my list, Fallout 3. And Fallout 3 I have beaten. I was a bit disappointed by, I forget the name of the first DLC that they put out, where you go to the swamplands.
Was that the first one? I thought it was the rescuing the Brotherhood Outcast, Operation Anchorage. That was the first one.
Oh, yeah. It was either the second or the third. I forget the name of the state that you go to where it's all swamplands. It was probably somewhere in the south, I think. I was a bit disappointed in that one, just because I remember when I was reading about it that it felt more like it was going to be kind of a horror movie tone, and it really wasn't. And that one was pretty glitchy, especially because my character was very powerful, and it felt like it took too many shots until I could kill one enemy in that level. But overall, I mean, aside from if you've already played through the game and then you just want to play again and make a new character, I really do hate how you have to relive, the growing up and
the whole childhood thing.
Yeah. Like, I kind of wish, like, you could just automatically just skip that whole section. But yeah, that was just a really fun game that took Fallout into a really, really good and better direction, in my opinion. And it still had some of the gameplay mechanics from the original Fallouts, in that when you used your VAT system to aim at any enemy's body part, and then depending on your percentage, and also your skill and such, how much damage.
Your skill actually influences your percentage.
Yeah. And of course, the bloody and violent death that they would have when you did kill them. Whether it was your bloody mess just blowing them apart or shooting their head off, or just a slow-mo factor of when you killed them, their body, just like shifting or like flying through the air.
Oh, whole ragdoll mechanic.
Yeah, always just so much fun, which is why, God, I really do hope sometime soon that they are going to make a Fallout 4, because I would love to hop back into the Fallout world. And I did play New Vegas. I really didn't enjoy it as much as I did Fallout 3.
Yeah, it's a lot better with the DLC. It changed a lot of factors with it.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny, too, because, when you think about it, like, the color palette from Fallout 3 to New Vegas is certainly vastly different, in that everything in Fallout is either gray or green, and then in New Vegas everything is kind of yellow or brown. I think for vast improvements, I would love if they could bring in either a vehicle or just a mount of any kind in there, as opposed to you just having to
walking everywhere
around on your feet. Yeah.
Yeah, I have heard a lot of people asking about that for Fallout series. Was I think it might have been even Jeff and Jason talking about it on the podcast. They were bemoaning the fact that there was no mounts in the Fallout series,
Yeah,
which makes
yeah,
sense. These games, you build a big game, that's great, but if you're gonna spend so much time walking around, you can't
hmm,
get to all the fun stuff. You're just like, it's just gonna wear you out. You
yeah,
know, uh, my opinion, but even
hmm,
yeah, even Skyrim to a degree, if it didn't have uh, the ability to jump to places you've already been to, I
hmm,
probably wouldn't have finished that game because the amount of walking you would have to be doing would be insane.
Oh yeah.
hmm,
Especially games that big or Fallout size, where you're literally covering
yep.
like miles or kilometers in video space.
Hmm. I will say though, a major complaint about the Fallout and the Elder Scrolls series is when you want to go to a specific city that is marked on your map, whether it's a quest or not. You just want to go there. Like, let's say in Skyrim, you want to go to the Mages Guild and start, working on being a part of the Mage Guild and enhancing your magic. But you are all the way over on like whatever starting city that you're at. Maybe you have already fought the first dragon and killed it. Blah blah blah. Blah. You want to go all the way there. That's a long goddamn walk, and you can't just go up the freaking mountains. You have to go all the way around, and it's trying to find the path that you can walk properly without anything getting in your way, and it takes forever to do
Hmm.
that. And that is incredibly tedious and annoying. It is.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
go ahead.
no, that's all right.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah, I was
QuickKick.
just saying, first time playthroughs, or at least first time going to that location, I could see, like, if you got to go to a new city, I could see
Mm-hmm.
why they would leave that there because they want to kind of funnel you into experiencing the game before they let you have, quick jumps. But yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
especially if it comes to like revisiting areas you've already been to, not having the ability to just quick travel is just it's deadly to games because you
Mhm.
just
Mm-hmm.
like I
Mm-hmm.
don't have time to waste just walking down the same road, with the occasional, you know. Yeah,
Random
like
encounter.
spider or rat that comes across your path, and you got to deal with that. So now it's going to take even more time, So
Yep.
yeah,
Hell.
it's just one of those things where you got to really balance. Yeah, you got to
Exploration
balance the exploration
and
and how you're funneling the players. Like, do you force them to walk everywhere? And it's like, well, that's going to fatigue them real fast. Whereas if you let them skip around everywhere, they may not get the full experience. You know.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was about to say, oh, Morrowind. I don't believe even has a fast travel
I don't believe
mechanic.
they do.
But then again, I haven't played that much of Morrowind because graphically, that game it looks like
Hmm.
ass. It
Yeah.
does.
Well, it's a couple of graphical updates behind. I mean, you think about the generations that came after it, how much graphics advanced in that time.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Same thing with one of my examples, Knights of the Old Republic. I mean, that came out in 2003,
Yeah.
and you still got like blocks for heads and blocks for hands.
Mhm.
People point
Mm-hmm.
at each other with fists. There are no fingers. They just point at each other with fists and just wave their, little
Grr.
club hands around.
I'm gonna punch you in the
Yeah.
face. Oh, oh. Uh. Okay, so a little off topic. You know what that really reminds me of? Uh, and Andy, I don't. Well, I mean, you may remember this. There was a Spider-Man game that came out on the PlayStation that I played, and Andy had the Dreamcast version of it. I
Yes,
think
I
if
did.
I remember correctly, because because in the PlayStation version, Spider-Man, he didn't have fingers. He just had his fists. And in Dreamcast, he had fingers, but it kind of looked a little silly because there was a cinematic where at one point he threatens to web somebody, but his fingers are just sort of out. Like it's not in like, oh, I'm gonna web shoot you and I'm making the pose of that with my fingers. No, my fingers are just out.
No.
And I just remember, like, PlayStation version, at least for that point, looks better because, because it already looks like, hey, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Number 5 on my list. This was a little difficult, but this has got to be my favorite psychological horror video game of this series. Silent Hill 2.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't remember if I did play Silent Hill 1 before Silent Hill 2 came out, but I remember before PlayStation 2 came out, there was a lot of talk about, most especially about, a lot of the big games that weren't coming out until probably like a year or so after the PlayStation 2 came out. But Silent Hill 2 being one of them and Metal Gear Solid 2 being another one. And I had never played Silent Hill before then, and then playing Silent Hill 1 and then reading so much about what they were going to do with Silent Hill 2 got me really intrigued, and Silent Hill 1 already scared the utter crap out of me, and playing 2, and I went back to it a while ago, and that game still works for everything that it does with its atmosphere and its utter ambience, and just how realistic it feels when you are standing in an abandoned building, and how the game itself will kind of mess with you, how it'll be utterly quiet and all you hear are your own footsteps. And then every once in a while there's some kind of a sound effect where it sounds like maybe something's running at you or something just loudly creaks somewhere. Mm-hmm. And God, does it ever work. And it's really sad that the Silent Hill series really went downhill after 3.
Yeah.
4 was fine, but it wasn't Silent Hill, really, to be honest. But from everything I've seen and heard with what they did with the P2 demo, which turned out, it's actually going to be a new Silent Hill game. Everything I've seen from that demo has my spirits high for a new Silent Hill game. And since it is being directed by Hideo Kojima himself, makes me go, oh, well, at least this does prove you can actually do other series of games as opposed to just your one that you've been doing all your damn life.
Mm.
But yeah, Silent Hill 2, I would love to go in and play the HD game. I would probably stick with the original voice acting that they had in there, because I listened to a little bit of it, I believe, when Jeff and Jason played the HD versions of 2 and 3. What was that?
Sorry, just things going off over here. It's all right.
Okay. And that's another game that for a psychological horror game did it well and did it the best, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those high watermark games where it's like, okay, now everyone else has to reach this level. Reach this level.
Yeah. Yeah, and nobody else really has. Because it always seems to me like whenever somebody tries in some way to kind of do a game like Silent Hill 2, all it really is it's more of a psychological, or not psychological. It's more of a shocker gore game.
Yeah, well, and that kind of goes with the state of horror films itself these days, but that's a whole other topic.
Yeah. All right, well, number 4 on my list, Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
that is my favorite game of the series. And, I mean, that was the game that reintroduced me to the stealth genre. I absolutely love this game. It is my high watermark of the series. Like, that's as good as it got. I do like the improvements that they made for 2, but that was also about the point 2 was. And even by the end of Metal Gear Solid, where it starts to really get up its own ass with its ridiculous, convoluted story of cloning and governments and superstitious, ridiculous bullshit.
Yeah, well,
About
at least Metal Gear Solid didn't have it be where it was a simulation within a simulation.
Yeah. I do find it funny how the plot line of, you're just being used, blah, blah, blah. You know, but when you start to think like, well, if you were using me for your grand design, why were you still affirmatively trying to kill me if you needed me in order to accomplish your mission?
And why are you telling me that you're using
sense.
me? I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose.
Because that's all part of my nefarious plan. Twirly mustache, twirly mustache. And I have played the other Metal Gear games since then. I did play a good amount of 3. Really, really did not care for the story and the overuse and overly long cinematics and codec conversations, which was what really killed me on those. Yeah, you can skip them, but it takes a little while. And by the hell, I remember one point replaying 2, and I'm on the last boss fight at the very end of the game. All I wanted to do is quickly save, and the characters start going into a long diatribe rant about how even your code name is a metaphor for war. And it's like, I don't fucking care! And just paragraphs and paragraphs of dialogue, and it's just, why? I just wanted to save, and now I just want... Oh, Jesus Christ, game, go fuck yourself. And, of course, the whole thing with Raiden. I never liked him, because he wasn't Snake. And then by 3, they're trying to say, oh, well, Raiden's a badass ninja now. I still don't care. I still don't like him. I don't care. Fuck you and fuck Raiden.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard a couple people make that point about that. They're really trying to convince it, like, oh no, this is the guy, and a lot of people are just like, nope.
Yeah, no, I don't care. He's not Snake.
We want Snake.
You know, and really, I mean, when you do think about it, at least in terms of Metal Gear Solid, Snake is an idiot.
He's written poorly, though. Yeah, it stands out even watching replays of like Snake Eater and stuff. It's just, you want to talk about graphics. Look at how far writing has come in video games. With on the nose dialogue or stuff like that. Also, how awkward the translation from Japanese into American is.
Yeah. All right. Well, Metal Gear Solid is my number 4. Hell, I remember at points, because after you have beaten the game, it will let you go back and rewatch all of the cinematics. I remember sitting the twins down. I don't remember if you were there.
I think I was.
And just showed them the quote unquote Metal Gear Solid movie from the cinematics. And you know what? I think a lot of the graphics, maybe because I played it so much, and I played it when it was still pretty fresh in everybody's mind, still look perfectly fine to me. And I mean, I wouldn't say I prefer them, but it does work for me. And for anybody who's interested, yeah, there was a remake of Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes on GameCube. I'll play the original on the PlayStation. I do like the little improvements that they made, but I hate all of the added story, cinematic, action, over-the-top action shit that they added.
Yeah, well, that was
to
right
it.
about the
I
time the
hate
Matrix
it.
had come out, or the second Matrix movie
Yeah.
came out, and everybody was doing that thing. So
Mostly a lot of use of slow-mo. Yeah. Yeah. All right, moving on. Number 3 on my list, Deus Ex: Human Revolution.
Okay. Yep.
I was really excited for this game when I was hearing about it, and getting it and playing it, enjoying it, beating it. I don't remember, and I don't think there is a New Game Plus feature on it. If there was, that would certainly place it pretty high up on my list. But I love stealth, genre, action, sci-fi, cyberpunk style game. I love Shadowrun, and so this is a good mix of that. There's just the only thing that would make this better would be if there was a magic system in this as well. But yeah, and I like a good tactical stealth game, especially where your enemy AI, they are intelligent, where like they're not just walking back and forth, like as they're walking away from a section they just looked at, they will turn around and look back, so you have to make sure to watch them carefully, like as you're switching from cover to cover and trying to sneak around them. And at times it can be a little bit too hard, but God, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, and it looked good. It played very well. A lot of the leveling up was great, to where you start off pretty simply and you start off pretty weak, but then eventually you can become pretty damn powerful. And I did hear they did make a sequel. I never heard about it, and for good reason.
because it was garbage.
Because, oh man, and what's so sad was that it was made by the exact same team who made Human Revolution, and it's just, how did you fuck that up?
Now, the director's cut of Human Revolution does have a New Game Plus feature.
Oh, well then that makes me want to play it even more. And I own the director's cut version.
Because I'm currently in the second playthrough of it. And
Nice.
right before I got to the DLC part of it, I did have all my augments maxed out.
Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff for you to unlock, where like you can turn invisible for a few seconds. You can jump off of like high levels and you'll take no damage when you hit the ground. You can see through walls. You can punch through walls. Take out enemies. You can either knock out enemies when you stealthily take them down, or you can choose to kill them brutally, and all the animations are always different.
Yeah,
and
unfortunately, the killing them brutally isn't very stealthy.
Well, yeah.
But you have that option nonetheless.
Yeah. And you are rewarded for how you play the game, whether you choose to avoid combat altogether and just sneak around. Like, you'll earn additional experience
Yeah, I think you
points.
get a ghost experience points if you manage to get through an entire area without being detected.
Yeah. The one negative thing about if you do constantly go into combat, you probably won't come out with a lot of ammunition.
No.
So that is kind of a negative. But for me, it's like, well, I would prefer to go into stealth at just about any time and then sneakily, just like melee my enemies and then take away, whatever ammo they have and just keep it for myself. And
as long as you have inventory space for it.
yes. And I hope sometime soon in the near future we can get another really good Deus Ex sequel that improves and just makes it better. That would be great. All right, number 2 on my list is an oldie but a goodie, Mega Man 2.
Oh yeah, classic.
I love the soundtrack for Mega Man 2. I have the soundtrack on my frickin' iPod. The music on it is perfect. It's so damn good. It's so damn good. I love the intro music when you first start it up. You know, like it just like gets you like right in the mood. You know, and the levels are great, the bosses are great. Like that was the best Mega Man game on the original Nintendo. And I played the others probably up until 5 or 4 or so, and I just wasn't liking them as much as I did 2 until, of course, Mega Man X.
Yep.
And I had beaten Mega Man 2, and that was just a very prominent game in my childhood. Hell, main reason I got a Nintendo Wii when I was really on the whole retro nostalgia factor. I heard Nintendo Wii had a virtual console network where you could just download all of the old classic games. That was the core reason why I bought a Nintendo Wii, so I could play Mega Man 2 again.
Yeah.
And along with several other classic titles on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, I love
Notoriously hard
All
too.
right.
Those early Mega Man games.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Mega Man 2, with the general boss robots, I can beat them pretty easily. It's when you get into the later ones that it does become a bit more difficult. And actually, I was doing a Let's Play for Mega Man 2, just trying to beat it. And when I was getting to the Wily stages, I wasn't able to get past the second Wily stage boss. Just because I just kind of ran out of ammo, and it's like, I forgot how hard this part is.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another Let's Play series that I never got to complete. All right, now before I go to my number ones, of course, there are the honorable mentions. First one, and I'm still not sure exactly how you pronounce this name, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Disgaea.
I think I heard about this one. Never played it,
yes.
but I heard about it.
It's a good game. It's a pretty damn good series.
Yeah, it is.
Too.
You're going to laugh the first 5 minutes into the game.
Yes. It's a comedy, a JRPG. Think Final Fantasy Tactics better. Much, much, much better than Final Fantasy Tactics. You can make your own squads of different soldiers, spellcasters, warriors, monks, monsters. You can collect all kinds of different... You can turn every single one of your characters, if you focus enough, into a fucking god, where they can kill anything and everything in their path.
And then, just for the hell of it, you can turn them into penguins. That kills anything in its path.
Yes.
Nice.
I haven't gone back to it in a while, and I bought the official sequel that they made a while ago. I've barely even played it, though, which is kind of sad, because I love those games. But really good games, crap ton of fun. You can get lost in just the amount. And you can kind of break the game, too, if you go too much into the item world and making your weapons and armor stronger, which...
Yeah, just
you
talk
can
to
do that.
Brandon about that. He's done that, actually.
Yeah, like, I would do that for, like, all of my characters, making every single one of their armors and weapons stronger, to the point where I finally went back to the main quest. I forgot, like, oh, that's right, all these enemies are only level 4, so I'm going to be wiping the utter floor
You
with
could, like,
them.
literally do it with one guy.
Yep. All right, moving on. My next honorable mention Resident Evil 2.
Yep.
It was the very first game in the series that I played, and definitely my favorite, right next to Resident Evil 4 of the whole series.
Yeah.
If I did have to pick a favorite, I would say 4 is my favorite, but Resident Evil 2 was my introduction to it. And I remember hearing about it long before I ever even got a PlayStation. And Resident Evil 2 was ported over to the N64, which got me really excited, because then that meant I could play it, because I didn't have a PlayStation for quite a few years. And kind of my introduction to the whole survival horror universe, or genre, really. Great classic game. I think it's aged just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just fine. All right, and next on that list, Zone of the Enders.
Oh, yeah.
The game that everybody bought because it had a demo for Metal Gear Solid 2
And it actually turned out to be a good game.
Yeah, well, and it was also because it was produced by Hideo Kojima. So, and they made a sequel to it that I did play, and I remember being pretty good, but I never beat it. And I own both of them. And Zone of the Enders, it was a very good game. Not a lot to it. It's a flying mech game, but it's good. It's pretty fast-paced, and it's a lot of fun. Main character is pretty goddamn annoying.
Yeah. Screw that
Yeah,
little
because
kid.
he's a stupid kid.
He spent way too much time complaining about shit.
Yeah. Complaining about shit and how he didn't want to kill anybody. Even though these are people that are perfectly willing to kill him.
And then, like, 10 minutes later, he's killing the fuck out of them.
Well, he was still refusing to kill. Though. Alright, moving on. Another game that I never beat, and I'm sure this is a game not a lot of people have played. Phantom Dust.
Yeah, heard about it. Again, like you said, didn't play it, but
Yeah.
definitely heard about it.
Yeah, this was a really interesting game where it's somewhat like a battle card game, only your powers are like on your character and they're kind of on the battlefield, and your character will have to run to collect said powers, and sometimes the power is only good for one use, or you can use it again and again and again, whether it's defensive or just an outright attack power. And some of the environments are destructible. You can, and when you battle, either you're fighting somebody as part of a story mission, or you're practicing, or you could, I imagine if you had online, you could fight online against other players, or you could do a local battle with a friend. It did take a while in order to do that, though. But and I also really like the game because like one thing I really did like about the Xbox when I first discovered this was that if you copied any of your music onto your hard drive, there were some games that allowed you to have or feature those games or feature any of your own music as part of the soundtrack. And so you could be playing Phantom Dust or really any other game that supported that, and you could have your own music play while you're battling or anything like that. And God, was that awesome.
Yep.
And I haven't played Phantom Dust again in a while. I did get it back in my collection. I would love to play it again. Maybe I'll do a Let's Play of it sometime. Who knows? And lastly, in my honorable mentions, my favorite game of this series, Final Fantasy IX.
Wow.
This was kind of the last big hurrah for the Final Fantasy series, at least for me. Anyway, because this was one that I deeply loved, where I really liked all of the characters. I liked the storyline. Sorry. And it's a car ad this time. From Acura, up your ass. Yeah.
You want to buy our car?
We're gonna rape
You want to buy our car? Buy our car! Buy our car! Buy our car!
It's an accurate kick.
Hey, let's. And besides, let's face it. I mean, if you drive an Acura, you're basically a queer. All right. So anyway, Final Fantasy IX. It combines a lot of the old with a little bit of the new, and the graphics and cinematics still look very good. Well, yeah. I mean, this was back when Square Enix was still SquareSoft, and the music was great. The combat was really good. It was a long game too. It was a 4-disc game. But I played it all the way through, and I beat it, and wanted to just play it again, and still love it. Still absolutely love it. All right, and finally, number 1 on my list, Andy, I'm pretty sure you know exactly what it's going to be.
Of course!
Chrono Trigger. My favorite JRPG of all time. I think this was the game that reintroduced me to the JRPG universe, and I absolutely love it. Hell, to give you an idea how much I love this game and its soundtrack, for all the Hearthstone Versus videos that I've done, that music is all from the Chrono Trigger soundtrack. All of it. I mean, I love the battle theme that they use for it. I mean, it's such good music. That one particular track.
And it was one of the best looking games on the Super Nintendo at the time, too.
Yes. It still looks good too. And like, just in case you're wondering, because there are 3 different versions of this game. There's the original Super Nintendo. There was the PlayStation 1 version, which came out for Final Fantasy Chronicles, and then there was the DS version. The DS version is the more superior.
It really is the best version, just because they kind of cleaned up the dialogue.
They made the dialogue better.
They cleaned up the dialogue, and they added new quests.
Yeah. And I don't even remember if when I was replaying the DS version, if I did beat it. I know I probably got really close to beating it, and I probably did. I just don't remember it. But I know, especially when I was first playing it on the Super Nintendo, that was a game I just couldn't beat unless I cheated. Because it didn't seem to matter how powerful I was, I could not beat Lavos there at the end.
I remember you calling me up at odd hours trying to get my advice.
Not odd hours.
I didn't say not all hours. I said odd hours.
Well, okay, like what's an odd hour for you then?
I don't know. I remember you calling once at 7 o'clock at night wanting to advice on how to beat something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not too terribly late. I mean, like an odd hour for me anyway, at least back then, would have been if I called you at like midnight, you know, asking you for advice about the game. But by then, like, I already would have been in bed. But yeah, that was another game that, right up there with Super Metroid, was a very prominent game in my childhood that I played a lot and that I beat quite a bit, and that I wanted to replay, and that I wanted a true sequel to, as opposed to Chrono Cross.
Which was not a true sequel. I don't care what the heck the official statement of it is.
Well, and hell, I've heard even a few other people say, yeah, it's not a true sequel to Chrono Trigger. Yeah, it's got a lot of the same elements as Chrono Trigger, but it doesn't have and from what I understand, Chrono, Marley, and Luca are in it. They're not playable.
Well, I think Luca, you can, like, kind of have Luca in your party, but it's not really her. It's just some scientist chick that happens to be named Luca.
Oh, so they didn't even really say if it was actually...
no, it's just some science chick with glasses and a lab coat.
Okay. Hey, it's kind of a callback. Like, it's not the same fucking thing. And I mean, mostly, I think what really bothered me, especially about Chrono Cross, was how it just felt like it was trying so much for certain callbacks. Like, hell, I remember reading the booklet when it described the lead hero, and I don't remember his name, and nor do I really care, how it described him as, he's a really quiet kid. Oh, so he's Chrono?
So basically he spends a lot of time just shaking his head yes or no.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, there's really only a few characters you can pull off being the silent type, and Chrono and Link, and I can't really imagine a few other...
I think it's pretty much Chrono and Link that can pull that off.
Yeah. Oh, I just thought of an interesting death battle. Link versus Chrono. That'd be kind of interesting to see who would win.
The quietest sword fight you ever heard.
Well,
until Navi, Navi starts chiming in every 5 minutes. Hey, listen!
Hey, listen! No, shut up!
And then finally they just kind of both get tired of it and they both cut her in two.
Yes. Well, in hell, on a death battle episode, Link fought Cloud and beat him. And somebody else online did a flash video of Chrono fighting just about everybody
except Link. I think he fought everybody but Link.
No, there was a 16-bit version of Link in there, and he was killed off really quickly. Yeah, which was like, oh, come on. But yeah. Chrono Trigger, such a great story, such a great game, music. The combat mechanic, is pretty kind of simplistic, but it works very well for what it has. The magic and the combo. The combo magic system was really what made that game special.
Yeah.
Especially.
Not to mention a couple of them were just downright pretty.
Yeah. And the whole time travel mechanic especially was great, being able to go to the past or to the future and different events that you took part in and how they would kind of change how certain things later on in the story would develop, and some of the different twists and turns and such, and then sacrificial decisions that certain characters made, and God, I love that game. Absolutely love it. So there you go, everybody. There is our top 10 favorite games of all time. No bullshit. Well, maybe kind of, but and I don't know how hard your guys' lists were for you guys to come up with, but I just started grabbing a lot of the games that I had in boxes, and I already knew the first two games that were going to go at the very top of my list, i.e. Chrono Trigger and Mega Man 2. As for everything else, like the second I grabbed the box, like the second I grabbed Metal Gear Solid, I knew, okay, well that has got to go on the list. Because I instantly remembered, how many times have I played this game? How many times have I beaten it? How many times have I gone back and replayed it again? Especially with all the different things that you unlocked, like the stealth camo and such. And So, what would you guys say are your final thoughts on your lists or on everybody else's lists? Because what I will say is, um, mostly hearing about a little bit more about the Dark Forces and then the Jedi Outcast does make me want to actually go out and actually play those games. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
How about you guys?
You talking about difficulty with the list?
Uh, Either or, be it the difficulty of the list or what you think about your own lists or other people's lists in general.
Well, with mine, the difficulty in coming up with the top five is in just sorting which one, because for me the three of them, my top three are constantly shifting around in my head. One's replacing the other, but they're always in my head as my top tier games. And then when it comes to, the bigger the number you get, top 10, top 15 stuff, you got to go back and remember, all the games you played and which ones kind of affected you the most or which ones you played the most. I think that's kind of the tough thing about coming up with lists like that. It's just sorting through all that. But as far as like top
Most definitely.
but as far as top five or top three stuff, usually the difficulty with that is just okay. Is this number one? Is this number two? Or because they're all jumbled there up, in your head.
Yeah, I constantly refined it from my top five. I kept switching them from where they were on the list all the time till I finally wrote it down.
Yeah. I had a hard time with my 10 to 5 list because for a while there, I mean, like I said, with Eternal Darkness, I wasn't sure if I should or could include that on my list. Because a lot of the games that are on my list were games that I have beaten and then wanted to go back and replay and. And like Elder Scrolls 5 and Eternal Darkness, I've never beaten those games. Ever. And I almost put, as an honorable mention, I wanted to put The Simpsons Hit and Run game, which
oh dear,
is the best Simpsons game I've played so far because it does encapsulate everything that is great about The Simpsons, and with its sense of humor and everything. But a little while into the game, it gets way too fucking hard with a particular quest that you have to do, and I could never get, and I could never finish it, and it was utterly frustrating to the point where I would just quit the game. And so that was easily debatable for me. Like, I would like to have this on my honorable mentions list, but by that point, I really started to hate that game. But way before that, I was really enjoying it. That's where a lot of the grouping and naming of games became really difficult because it was fun factor, nostalgia factor. Can you still go back and play this and enjoy it? Have you actually beaten it? Can you beat it? And can you still enjoy it? When you have gotten past that challenge factor.
Yep.
And so my top 5 or top 4 was pretty easy for me. A few things did get jumbled around. Like, I was trying to figure out, like, do I like Super Metroid more than Shadowrun? I've beaten Super Metroid more than Shadowrun. And I'm certainly a lot more familiar with Super Metroid than I am Shadowrun. And I could probably beat Super Metroid in my sleep. So.
Yeah.
How about you, Andy? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like I said, it was just, those top fives were just kind of. I kind of figured out what my bottom five were, but I had a difficult time with the top five. Chrono Trigger being the exception. That was always going to be number one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Me too.
I kept switching between Link to the Past and Super Metroid, and then Mega Man X, and I just couldn't figure out where they fit on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, same with me and my list is especially those big ones that you got a lot of memories of and stuff. It's constantly fighting between that and replayability, or has it aged well, stuff like that.
Like, I imagine if was I playing Mass Effect again recently, because I actually recently rebought the Mass Effect trilogy.
Oh yeah, wow.
That I do plan on trying to do a Let's Play for probably sometime in the future, of just going through the entire series of the game in kind of one go. But I haven't played it in quite a while, and so I imagine if I had, I would have included that somewhere on my list. But I didn't, so... I do still enjoy, and... I mean, I love... to be fair, when I first played the first Mass Effect, I didn't like it that much because I couldn't figure out how to change my weapons during combat, and the game didn't really feel like that it told you how to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of got killed because of that, because I had to switch to my sniper rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't figure out how to, and it's just like, well, okay, I'm dead. Fuck this game. So.
Yeah.
But then when I later went back to it and figured out how, and kept on playing and really enjoying it, and I fell in love with that game.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, the combat progressively gets better through the games, especially when you hit the third ones. I think the third one had the best combat of all of them.
I especially like the new melee mechanic that they had in there.
That was kind of my negative. That was my first kind of negative qualm when I got into playing the second one, because I didn't like how now you had to worry about ammo as opposed to your gun just overheating.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, granted, yeah. Do you have to buy ammo, or do you just pick it up off of your enemies?
Yeah, it's mostly just schemed across the level.
Okay. And also, I didn't like where after, when you're on the space station trying to get, I believe, the doctor character. I forget his name. Sorry. But I hated how the second after that mission was considered complete, I wanted to go back and try to do a few other things. The game didn't let me. It immediately forced me back to my ship and then just kind of pushed me on my way, as opposed to just letting me... Now, and I don't remember if in original, the first Mass Effect, if it does do that to you too, where anything else optional that you want to do, you can't after you've completed the main mission. But those were certainly two things about Mass Effect 2 that really bothered me and really annoyed the crap out of me. Like, I hated the fact of, like, why do I have to worry about ammo now? I really don't like that. Because like, the first thing you think of is like, so am I going to have to worry about actually running out of ammo during combat? Really? And then, anything optional I want to do after I beat the mission, I can't? Hold on. Okay, we're going to end this real soon, because, God, this is just getting infuriating.
With the advertisements.
Yes. You can have a taste of Italy. You can have a taste of my ass. How about that? All right, so guys, final thoughts right now.
See about the games we picked.
Yes.
Well, I know a lot of people have got their own kind of requirements for choosing their top 10 lists. The ones that kind of stick with me, a lot of them got their own faults and stuff. But for me, the biggest thing happened to be, how much time did I invest in these games and what was the experience like and how rewarding was it for me? I talked about the endless hours I played with Knights of the Old Republic or Mass Effect and stuff like that. Those are ones that kind of stuck in my head for the longest time. The fun ones, like, they come around and I enjoy them a lot. The ones with great mechanics, but ones that really provide an experience for me, they tend to stay in my head, stay with me longer. So,
Absolutely.
that goes a lot into judging my top 10. And like I said, that nostalgia is kind of balanced out with, how good does it hold up? How long does the game outlast its own shelf life? I think that's another
Yes.
factor to look at. But yeah, to me, it's a lot more about the experience. And yeah, that's kind of what I brought to the table with my top 10.
Absolutely. I kind of debated at one point about should I go back and should I actually play a whole bunch of these games, before I really sit down and start making my list. But I thought, like, that would be a lot of time, and and no, I mean, you don't. I mean, yeah, I mean, I imagine, like any other professional, quote unquote, gaming critic, and I can't really consider myself a gaming critic. Uh, I mean, I am in my own way, but I'm not a professional
Yeah.
critic. Would probably do that. And that is certainly a good idea to gain. Well, has the game really aged all that well, or are you just working off of pure nostalgia?
Yeah.
Because I could probably think of Ninja Turtles on the Nintendo was a game I did love as a kid, and when I went back to it, I do still enjoy it, but the level and difficulty factor does get pretty damn ridiculous to the point where you hate
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Andy, your final
Um,
thoughts?
just mostly with me, it was about story and just pure gameplay that I liked about certain games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more into
Uh,
story and story-driven gameplay. I don't know why, just am.
Mm.
Which is why
no,
I
that's
tend
perfectly
to go
fine.
towards RPGs.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, oh yeah. And I mean, RPGs. I mean, I am a sucker for a really good RPG game. Because there is just nothing more fun than creating your own character and then having them become more and more and more powerful as the game
Hmm.
progresses. And for me, it was nostalgia. It was also how many times have I played this game? How much of it do I really love? I mean, hell, I mean, Chrono Trigger was a no
Yeah.
duh because I own 3 freaking copies of it. That's how much I
And
love
not to
it.
mention, you have the
Hell,
entire soundtrack on your iPod.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, that's when like, okay, yeah, this game is automatically always going to be your favorite video game
Yeah.
of all time, and and yeah, some of those story factors can certainly cue in there too. If it's a good enough story, but for me, like, yeah, a good story for a game can be important if that's what you really want, but
It,
it also
yeah, but on the other
it
side,
also
bad
really does come
gameplay
down
can ruin
to
a good story factor.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Gameplay is probably more important to me than a good
yeah.
story.
It's more of the most immediate and primary need. It's like you can't tell the story if you don't have the gameplay, which is kind of the bones on which the whole thing hangs on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is why I don't understand why some people screw that up. It's like your main function of your game is gameplay, and you're going to screw that up.
Hell, I could think of plenty of perfectly good examples where gameplay is virtually non-existent in a game, in a quote-unquote game.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Thankfully, though, that doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, I don't think that you've earned the right to call what you've released a game.
Oh, yeah, you told me about that quote-unquote game that's really just a digital book with characters out there.
Yeah. Well, all right, everybody, we are going to cut this short. This has been the Other People podcast. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I almost called you Luke. QuickKick. I don't know why. I apologize for that. QuickKick. Thank you very much for joining us once again.
My pleasure.
I hope that we can have you on again next time. It won't be soon, but hopefully if we can think of another really good topic for us to talk about on the show, that would be
and hopefully it won't take quite as long.
Yeah. And of course, thanks to Andy for always being here with me. And we will see you guys next time. And in fact, why don't you guys, well, fuck, I mean, I don't know how many people really even do listen to this podcast. But if anybody does and you enjoyed this, why don't you guys make up your own top 10 list of your own favorite video games of all time in the comment section. And we will see you guys next time for a brand new episode of The Other People. Until then, good night, farewell, and good gaming!
And goodbye, people!
See ya.
Let me take a minute and tell you my